Picture this. You're walking through a dense forest. The wind whistles between the trees, the leaves crunch beneath your boots, and every sense is heightened. Out here, it's not just about strength, it's about intelligence. It's a kind passed down quietly through generations, then almost forgotten until now. Centuries ago, before metal tools and modern gear, our ancestors survived using nothing more than sticks, vines, and stone. But it wasn't brute force that kept them alive, it was brilliance. They designed traps so ingenious, so perfectly adapted to their environment, that even today's hunters armed with technology still use their blueprints. Not because they have to, but because they work. One of these traps is the deadfall. Looks simple. A heavy rock, balanced carefully on a trigger made of sharpened wood and tensioned fibers. But setting it up requires precision, patience, and understanding of an animal's behavior. It doesn't just crush, it outsmarts. The moment the bait is disturbed, gravity does the rest. Then there's the snare, just a loop of cord, right? Wrong. These snares were engineered to be invisible in their setting. Using bark fiber or twisted gut, placed with surgical accuracy along trails animals used every day. One wrong move and the loop would tighten in an instant, securing dinner without a sound. No loud bang, no bullet. Just nature working against itself. And perhaps the most fascinating, the pit trap. Dug by hand, camouflaged with sticks and leaves, these holes could capture animals 10 times a human size. But here's the genius. It wasn't the hole that trapped, it was the psychology. These hunters knew where animals hesitated, where they felt safest, and they played on that trust. That's not just survival, that's mastery. These weren't just traps, they were tests of character. To build them, you needed patience, focus, and discipline. A rushed trap didn't catch anything. Distracted mind led to empty hands and an empty stomach. In many ways, they weren't just catching animals, or sharpening themselves. Today we scroll, we click. We consume knowledge, but we rarely live it. Yet there's a quiet movement among hunters, survivalists, and even scientists who are returning to these ancient designs. Not out of nostalgia, but out of respect, because what worked 1,000 years ago still works now. Nature hasn't changed, neither has the wisdom to live with it. So the question isn't, how did they survive? The question is, what did they know that we've forgotten? Maybe, just maybe, it's time to remember. Now let's talk about a deadly dance from another time, when the steps were all about balance, strategy, and survival. This ain't your grandma's ballroom. We're talking traps, the silent, unseen adversaries that once tested the wits of our ancestors. Our story begins long before iPhones and AirPods. When life was raw, the air was thick with challenges and opportunities. If you don't hunt, you don't eat. It wasn't about trophies or Instagram pics. It was about survival. There were 3 main players in this ancient game of cat and mouse: the mighty deadfall, the sneaky snare, and the master of disguise. The pit trap. Each had its own style, its own strengths. But what united them was the silent threat they posed. The deadfall was like the heavyweight champ of traps. A large boulder perched precariously on a wooden frame, triggered by a system of levers and pulleys. Once activated, there was no escape. The deadfall crushed everything beneath it. It was brutal, efficient, and very satisfying if you set it up correctly. But not all traps were so dramatic. Enter the snare, a simple noose-like contraption made of tough vines or leather thongs. It was the stealth bomber of the trapping world, relying on cunning placement and timing. Animals caught off guard found themselves entangled and helpless. And then there was the pit trap, the ultimate test of patience and planning. It wasn't about brute force. It was about deception. A deep hole disguised as a natural feature of the landscape, camouflaged with leaves and branches. It was designed to lure unsuspecting prey into a false sense of security, only to ensnare them at the crucial moment. But why do we love these ancient traps so much? Maybe it's the challenge they present, forcing us to think like our ancestors, to plan ahead and execute with precision. Or maybe it's the satisfaction of seeing a well-executed trap in action, knowing that we've mastered a skill that's been around for thousands of years. Whatever the reason, there's a timeless appeal to these ancient traps that continues to captivate us today. They remind us that sometimes the best solutions are the oldest ones, and that with a little ingenuity and planning, we can overcome any obstacle. Oh, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. It's free, and you won't miss a single thrilling episode. Now let's get back to those ancient traps. We've discussed the deadfall and the snare. Now let's turn our attention to the pit trap, a marvel of ancient engineering and deception. Picture this, a seemingly innocuous depression in the ground, cleverly concealed with leaves, twigs, and dirt. But don't be fooled by its natural appearance. This is a man-made marvel designed to ensnare unsuspecting prey. The process of creating a pit trap was a meticulous one. Hunters would dig deep holes, sometimes as much as 15 feet in diameter and 6 feet deep. The location was crucial, often near water sources or along animal trails. The goal was to create a hidden hazard that would stop a potential meal in its tracks. Camouflaging the pit was equally important. Leaves, grass, and branches were carefully arranged to make the trap appear as part of the natural landscape. The idea was to fool the prey into thinking that there was nothing out of the ordinary, allowing the trap to remain hidden until it was too late. But how did the pit trap actually work? The answer lies in its psychological complexity. Animals like humans have their own fears and instincts. They are wary of open spaces and prefer to stay close to cover. By disguising the pit as a natural feature of the landscape, hunters were able to trick animals into venturing too close. Once an animal stepped into the pit, it was trapped. The sides were often too smooth to allow for easy climbing, and the depth of the hole made escape nearly impossible. It was a clever solution to a very old problem, a way to outsmart and outmaneuver the prey without relying solely on brute force. Pit traps were used for a variety of animals, from small rodents to larger prey, such as deer and wild boars. Their versatility made them an essential tool for hunters throughout history. In today's world, pit traps may seem like relics of the past, but they continue to be used by some hunters and trappers. Their effectiveness is a testament to the ingenuity and resourcefulness of our ancestors. If you enjoy stories like this, don't forget to subscribe to our channel.